Hi everyone, this is Siddharth from siddharthpower.com, and this is my very first video blog. Today what I'm going to share with you is 5 lessons that I've learned during my business development and sales career, and hopefully these lessons will be useful for you whether you're in the sales area or whether you're just in general service and consultancy with clients. So the first lesson I want to start off with is relationships. Now, it's very important, and you probably heard that you need to think of the customer always. What I've learned is that when you're building relationships with customers or clients, it's very important that you consistently build those relationships, even if nothing is happening from a sales perspective. And the reason I say that is because when you've been in a sort of constant relationship with a client, you will find that eventually at some point they're going to start talking to you about your product or your service. So it's very important that you keep building relationships, even if there's nothing happening from a sales perspective. The second thing is you need to be persistent as a sales professional or a business development professional. Now, what I mean by persistence is not that you are persistent to the extent that you're annoying the customer, because that is really going to put them away eventually. But you want to be persistent in terms of just analyzing what they're doing as a client or a customer with your product or your service, observing if there's anything perhaps you can pick up in terms of a gap. And if you find a gap, that's when you can be persistent in terms of that gap itself. And obviously you want to close that gap with a particular offer or value that you can add through your product or your service. The third is something which I've often seen salespeople make a mistake, and that is when they feel a deal is a deal even though it's not been signed. So if you have a verbal agreement with a client or a customer, I've always found that a deal is only a deal when it's actually a signed deal. So if you have something that's signed on paper, then that is going to be a deal. It's good to have verbal agreements, and it's good to sort of have an understanding with your customer that you have an agreement, but nothing is done because things suddenly change. So it's always good to have something that's signed on paper. The fourth is, when you have to adapt for seasons as a salesperson or a professional. Now, what I mean by that is if you look at the world currently, there's a lot of changes that keep happening. If you try and go about the same old, outdated models in terms of your sales process or just the way you approach your clients, you will find that sometimes the same sort of routine is not going to work. So you have to adapt to that. And the best salespeople tend to be those who are able to be adaptable. So very important that you adapt. And especially when it comes to technology, you need to somehow adapt yourself in terms of the different technological changes that are taking place. I know from a sales perspective, getting more involved in the digital revolution actually is going to make a big impact in terms of your sales process. And finally, one of the biggest things for me, and I think it's very important that you actually have something like this, is your mindset. Now, what I mean by mindset is you need to have some kind of process either first thing in the morning or during the day where you have a ritual that you focus on improving your mindset or making yourself feel better in terms of your work. So what I do is I have a particular ritual in the morning where I might listen to a particular type of audio, or I might read some kind of sort of inspirational book or type of reading. And that basically just ensures that my mindset is correct in terms of how I approach my process, whether it's through my work in terms of the sales or business development side of things, or just generally ensuring that I'm in the right frame of mind when I deal with a client or a customer. It's so important to actually keep working on your mindset. I can't really stress enough on that. So if you're not doing that, I mean, even if you just take maybe 20 minutes to listen to an audio that you think is going to inspire you, then do that. One suggestion I can give is while you're driving, you spend a lot of time on the road as a salesperson probably. You might as well, download something like a podcast where you can listen to something inspirational. And if it's like 20, 30 minutes, it'll make a big difference if you start doing it every day. So really go and look out for particular podcasts that might help you. I mean, one of the best guys I could recommend immediately is a guy called Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins, if you haven't heard of him. And he's a motivational speaker, but he's a well-known guru when it comes to, things like sales, improving relationships with clients and customers. And you can easily find one of his podcasts that you can download on your phone or through your iPhone as well. So those are 5 lessons I've learned from my sales journey and my sales career. I hope it was very useful to you. And if you want to read anything more, or you find that you need some more information, please go to my website. The link is actually provided on the website below. This is Siddharth signing off. I'll see you in the next video blog.